basically, since we already told you guys, looks like you guys have some projects in mind that you're thinking of. That's one of the exciting things about Worbla is if you're anything like me and you see movies or you read your comic books or you're playing your video games and you see those super awesome armor pieces that you really want to have, Worbla is a fantastic tool to get you on the road to actually achieve that. So, I will, basically, here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about basically start off with researching your costume, making your pattern for what you're going to be making out of Worbla, and then just kind of talking over what tools that you're going to want to have in basically your workspace for that. Then we'll kind of go into the actual methods of making it, forming it into the shapes you need, and then also kind of talking about attaching it, making, things to attach it to your body. And then it is kind of necessary. Sometimes, I don't know, I've seen sometimes it's an afterthought. You're like, look at this. Oh, I don't know how to attach it.
I put it on myself.
Yeah. So we'll make sure to cover that today, as well as also the finishing of the Worbla. So priming, painting, sealing, all that good stuff. So I'm sure that you guys at least have all heard of Worbla. It's a wonderful thermoplastic material. It is sandable. It's actually when Kristen made this slide.
Do you guys, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
Do you want to see have you seen it? Have you touched it? Have you
That's
felt
why
it?
we're here.
Okay, I have never touched it.
I have never touched it.
Yeah.
Before
Come
anything
touch our
is
Worbla.
done to it.
What's Kristen wrote on here about the texture.
That is the glue side,
That's the
but
glue side.
both sides can glue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what Kristen wrote about the texture when it's formed up, that it's like a fruit roll-up, that's very accurate. I actually kind of laughed. I was like, that's exactly what it's like.
Really want to.
Yeah. So that kind of gives you an idea of that. Let's see. Another cool thing about Worbla is that it is very low on waste, because basically after you trim your pieces, you can take all your extra little tiny scraps and you can heat them up and squish them together, and then it's kind of like a moldable clay almost.
It's like putty.
And so you can do all these little
Scraps
fancy
from Wonderland for
details.
this.
Oh, cool.
So it's very nice that you definitely get your money's worth when you buy it, even though it is slightly pricey.
It's a little expensive.
But it actually helps too if you have friends that are going into buying it. You can get multiple sheets, and you get a little bit of a quantity discount when you buy multiple sheets. Up here you have two of the main websites that you can buy it off of in the US, the cosplaysupplies.com, and also Yaya Han has a store, or part of her store is dedicated to that as well. So if you were interested in getting it, you can look up.
Oh, you know what? How many of you are local?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So I heard a rumor, and this is a rumor.
I heard that rumor too.
And someone might come and strangle me for saying this out loud, but Tap Plastics is looking into curing it locally.
David's ordered sheets already.
Oh, perfect, all right, so then it's a
Where are
thing,
they
so
located?
it just hasn't been announced.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Where is it called?
So
Tap
Tap
Plastics.
Plastics, and they're in Linwood, they're in Bellevue. Yeah, you can look online.
Yeah, it's just TAP, just look at Tap Plastics.
Yeah.
Basically, you can type that into Google, it should come right up, and they'll
So they should
show you
be
their
carrying
location.
those locally very soon.
Okay. So that's kind of the introduction of what we're doing. Before we keep going, I just wanted to introduce ourselves really quick. My name is Tina. I have a page called Firewing Creations on Facebook if you wanted to follow anything that I'm doing. I'm still kind of newer into the realm of cosplay, I guess. I've been cosplaying for about 3 years, but kind of getting more serious in the last year is when I've started dabbling with Worbla, and I'm currently working on an armor project with it, so hopefully that will be good. I will introduce, we have Kristen from Kit Cosplay here. Why don't you tell us how long you've been cosplaying and how long you've been working with Worbla?
I've been seriously cosplaying as opposed to FL cosplaying, since about 5 or 6 years. Yeah, about 5 or 6 years, and then I started working with Worbla about 2 years ago. Was that one? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. So Katie taught me actually. Yeah, so about 2 years now.
Awesome. And then we have Abby from Abby Sue Cosplay. How about you? How long have you been cosplaying?
I'm pretty sure I've been cosplaying for about 5.5 years now, and I kind of started, big hardcore. I did Princess Zelda from Twilight Princess, and then made the armor out of craft them. And it works, and I can still wear it, so. That was back in 2009, GeekGirlCon. And then I've been working with Worbla. I think I made claws for Catwoman.
Can you guys all hear her?
last year.
Okay, alright, just making sure.
I made claws for Catwoman last year, so I think I've only been working with it for about a year, because Wonder Woman was the beginning of this year.
Okay, cool.
And then we have Katie from Apocalyptic Ash. How long have you been cosplaying and working with Worbla?
I did my first costume in 2007, I believe, but started kind of heavily making costumes in 2011, probably. And I've only been working with Worbla for about 1.5 years, so you started about a year ago.
Okay. Well,
I
then,
think you started about the same time.
Okay, sure.
But I've made like full body armors out of it, like Commander Shepard and then Sasha from Pacific Rim. And then my most recent one was Athena from Borderlands, the pre-sequel.
Alright, so that is who is up here today. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to start with Abby. She's going to talk to us about patterning, getting all your stuff prepared, and then making your patterns. So go ahead, Abby.
Well, the first step would be to get as many research images as possible, and when I say as many, I mean a lot. This means many hours searching on Google and forums and anywhere you can find images for your costume. I mean, if it's a comic book, I tend to buy the comic books because there's a lot of angles in there. If it's from a movie, I'll watch the movie over and over again. And I'll find screenshots, a lot of them. My recent project is Sif from Dark World, and that's what these pieces are. So I got a bunch of images, and I found also images from the actual costumes hanging out on mannequins, and those are actually more detailed than the ones from the movie, which is really great to find if you're looking for in from movies. So if you can find when they come around and put the costumes up on mannequins, it's like best time to get shots for your costume.
Do you use the RPF at all?
I do.
How many of you know about RPF? Just a few. Okay, so Replica Pop Forum. It's therpf.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's therpf.com. And they've got an amazing group of people on there that do fantastic research, and some people even make sketches, and they've done the costume before. Therpf.com.
That's where I got a lot of my research for Catwoman from Batman Returns. So
That's where I got a lot of my Sasha pictures too, because if you have seen Pacific Rim, the Russian pilot team are in the movie for all of maybe 3 minutes tops.
it's really hard to get pictures.
So there were no reference images, and somebody was a very nice person and took photos of the costumes on their mannequins when they were in some display in like LA or something.
Those are my favorite
So
ones.
I was lucky in that someone did that, so I had the pictures. Otherwise, I would have been screwed.
Yeah. But for things like video games, you can usually find a 3D renderer, or sometimes you can find them flat, which I found for Zelda, which was kind of nice. There's ways to find everything. You just gotta do really a lot of research. So once you've done your research and you have your pictures, you probably are gonna want to print out a few and have the rest on your computer, tablet, or phone to reference quite often. And you will not ever remember that exact color, so always bring it with you.
Yeah, it's really good to print things out, honestly, even if you have a tablet, because I can't tell you how many times I've had, like, you can see in this picture up here that Tina has had her Wonder Woman pictures right in front of her when she's working on it, because, I mean,
Oh yeah.
let's be honest,
I
I can't
do that.
recall. Yeah, I can't recall, so.
I do it wrong every time if I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Like, I
pretty
think
good.
it looks like this. No.
You're
That
looking
turn
at
out
it
badly.
again. So the next part now is to make actual patterns.
Ta-da!
Yes. So patterns are easy or hard depending on how you look at it. For me, I just kind of sketch things. I don't really use math. I do use math for bodysuits, but that's different. For this, I just kind of like put a piece of paper over and then I'm like, that's the general shape and I sketch it out. But other people like actually use math to do that kind of stuff. I
I don't know, I think it's honestly, I mean, you could, but I think it's easier to make a pattern out of like tracing paper.
I just kind of throw
Yeah.
it over which part of my body I want to like do, and I'm like, that looks about right, and then I draw it a little bit, and then I put it back on. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna change that, and then I change it a little bit, and then once it's done, I'll cut it out and try it again, and it looks about right,
And you can always fold it in half to make sure that it's symmetrical.
which is what I did
Yep.
in order to cut both sides symmetrical because I don't draw symmetrical all the time. I mean, when I'm close, but so. But that would be a pattern, and you always have to remember that you're going around something most of the time because body parts are not square. Not at all. There's a lot of round parts, so you have to account for that, and that's why it would be tapered and wider. So you have to remember to taper around like wrist pieces or ankle pieces. You have to remember that your body is full of shape. And not
Some
straight down.
people also use, like, they'll wrap their arm or leg or whatever in saran wrap and then put tape over that and draw directly on the tape. And then once you cut it off, just cut out that piece and then you have it shaped to whatever
I have
body
done
part
that.
it is.
I've done that for my boot covers. I will wear the heel that I'm going to cover, and then I'll wrap everything in saran wrap, and
Tape, painter's tape.
then painter's tape or duct tape.
Makes a
Or,
great conversation piece.
the masking tape and the painter's tape, you can draw on it really nicely.
Duct tape you can too, but it likes to come off a little bit, so.
It is a great conversation piece when someone walks in the room and you have your leg.
From Ran Ran.
I thought that happened,
Because
yeah.
we all have duct tape dummies, I'm pretty
Yes.
sure, right now.
Do you guys know what duct tape dummies are? Yeah, okay, they're really cool. If you don't know what they are,
They're very helpful.
they are what we just described, but a full body. So you wrap
Get your friends.
all of yourself in
Have a fun time.
saran wrap, duct tape on top of that, and then
Don't
someone
get your skin.
yeah, don't get your skin. Someone cuts you out of it. But what ends up happening is you can stuff like tape it back up and stuff it, and then you have a dress form that's exactly you. And I can't tell you how helpful it is.
Oh, it's so helpful.
Yeah.
But it's the only way I can make these. I had my friend's duct tape dummy for this hanging out. I was like, oh, it's
So after paper pattern comes.
then you gotta transfer your paper patterns onto craft foam, which is what I do. Not everyone does that. Some people do all Worbla, but I feel like craft foam is a good stabilizer in the middle because Worbla is kind of thin, like, and it's not very stable on its own. So we use craft foam. It can come in many thicknesses. This is what I did, so I transferred my pattern onto this, if anyone wants to see it. I will put it here.
Okay. If you want to come see it.
So that, then you have all the pieces on your craft foam. A lot of the times there's layers. There's 3 layers to this piece. So there's 3 pieces of craft foam that I made. And then I covered them all in Worbla and then I put them all together. So you can do that to make lots of different like depth and layer. And I know for this, I'm gonna add stuff to it. I didn't feel like putting it under the Worbla this time, so I'm gonna add it to the top instead. You can do it either way. Like puffy paint is good for things like raised designs like Sid has. She has the scroll work on it.
Totally.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the special ways that you might make a round pattern, like for boobs?
Ah, yes.
Oh, the boobs.
Boob patterns aren't really patterns. They're just a round circle. So you make a circle, and with Worbla, it just kind of goes over the shape. You just have to be really careful.
So you would recommend not making a pattern for something as round as like chest plates, but maybe what about like shoulders or other
Shoulders,
round
I would say, would go in 2 pieces because the shoulder has got kind of an angle. So there's going to be a little bit of a weak part in the Worbla if you just use it. You know what I'm talking about, right? Don't you do 2 pieces for your
It depends on
shoulders?
what I'm making.
Usually, like if they're down to here, I would say 2 pieces.
So I've made some that
There's a
have 2
seam.
pieces and there's a seam there, and that works, but I've also made some that are just one single curve.
So they don't know everything.
Kind of the way that I did that, and the same way that I did the food cups, is I have these acrylic spheres that are in half and they like go together and they're a ball. But what you do is you cover them in like Vaseline or something to make it not stick to it, and you heat the Worbla and you stick it on there and kind of mold it to that so it's perfectly round. Yeah, it goes.
We've got a site on that and coming up in a specifically. What about making a pattern though?
A pattern
how do you, like-
for Valkyrie.
Like, do you make snips and then put those people together, put those two pieces together?
For your Valkyrie, we did a circle, and then we did concentric circles, and then we actually cut a V out of it, so then it came in.
It is hard to explain. So if you're familiar with,
But if a V comes out of a circle, you're going to get more of like a triangle.
Kind of like a dart.
yeah, like darting the battering, yeah. So,
But you can do that if you want with this, it just is you're going to have to close those seams if you want to dart it.
okay.
There's many ways.
Alright. Wanna talk about workspace?
Yes, workspace is kind of important because if you try and work on your carpet, you're going to get a burn. So, and also you might burn your hand.
Is that from Instagram? Oh dear, oh dear.
Yes. So you're going to want, if you're going to work on the floor, you're probably going to want something heat resistant. I have just a random plastic table that I got from Costco and have it on the floor.
Those are great. Honestly, like little plastic tables from Costco that are, I don't know, they're like
pretty big.
$2 or
Yeah,
something. Yeah,
they're
they're
not-
fantastic.
I use those. I mean, it melts a little bit, but it works. I mean, I've used it for about a year. She has a table that I have used more often. But my floor is what I use. Don't use your dining room table. You're probably going to hurt that as well, because you're going to be spraying a heating it with a heat gun that is meant for peeling paint. So
It's pretty darn hot.
it gets hot. So you're going to want to make sure that anything around that area is not heat.
So what you can do is you can make a working surface by taking poster board, but it's like 30 cents at the craft store or something, and getting that HVAC tape from Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever. And it's just it's metal insulation tape and it's heat resistant, obviously. So you just cover that board with the heat resistant tape, and all of a sudden you have a mobile workstation that's also.
I think I also used a piece of plexiglass one time.
Yeah, totally. Cool, thank you. All right, cool. So let's move on.
Yep. Here we're gonna have Kristen talk to us about more of the actually forming, molding, more of the process.
This is where we get into it, you guys. Buckle up and get ready. This is how you do it. So what you'll need, we already talked about tracing paper, because some parts you're gonna want to make a pattern out of, like your forearm bracers or like leg bracers. Other parts you're just gonna, like the boob cups, you can just make those on the fly. We'll talk about that in a minute. You're gonna want craft foam. Craft foam is an excellent stabilizer. I would not recommend just doing Worbla.
No, I don't recommend it.
Yeah, it's thin. You guys all
You
saw the
can
Worbla.
layer it, you can,
Yeah,
but it's gonna be really heavy. The Worbla is what stabilizes it as well as makes it a lot lighter
the
to
craft
wear.
foam. The craft foam.
Somehow I say different.
Yeah, so definitely we recommend craft foam, and also the craft foam will give you those really interesting layers underneath. You can see in the bracers and then on the boob cups up there as well, that's all created with craft foam underneath, and then you just keep the Worbla on top of it. So craft foam, craft foam, craft foam. You're gonna need scissors, Sharpie, heat gun. If you don't know where to get a heat gun, since most of you are local, go to Harbor Freight. Honestly, find your local Harbor Freight. You can find a heat gun for $13, I believe.
We got ours at Home Depot.
And did you pay more for it?
We probably did.
Yeah. So go to Harbor Freight, pick up a cheaper heat gun. It's about $13, and it's gonna save your life, because technically, I believe it can be heated and molded with like, I don't know.
You
they
can
say
use
like
a hair dryer,
I hear,
but it takes forever.
it'll take a year. You'll be dead by the
That's
time.
It starts activating at 194 degrees. I looked that up last night.
Oh, okay.
So,
I did not know
get a
that.
heat
Get
gun.
to something that at
$13.
least is around 200. You know, because they have the more expensive heat guns. They're like, oh, we can have this huge range. You don't need